kind of based on the agenda and time, we'll either be done, which I don't think we're going to be quite that quick, but otherwise we'll take a break about an hour and a half, 2 hours in, which is about an average meeting time that they've asked us to make sure you guys are here for. And then we'll take a pause and you can get signatures then. So we'll be clear about it. We're not going to make you wait till a really long meeting goes on, but we are going to make you sit around for a little bit of it before we take a break. So just to give you a little heads up on what to expect.
Y'all should have went to the ad hoc committee meetings.
The ad hoc committee meetings, if you ever have that chance again, are about 20 minutes. All right, I'm going to call to order this regular meeting of, Monday, May 19th. All please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We begin, as always, by acknowledging the land on which we gather is the territory of the Ottawa and Chippewa peoples who have stewarded this land through the generations. Thank you for your strength and resilience in protecting this land and inspiring us to uphold our responsibilities to do the same. And with that, I will turn it over to our City Clerk, Benjamin Meritat, for roll call.
Yes, and good evening, Commissioner Anderson.
Here.
Commissioner Shaw.
Here.
Commissioner Stanley.
Here.
Commissioner Treadwell.
Here.
Commissioner Werner. Mayor Pro Tem Wilson.
I'm here.
And Mayor Shamrow.
Here. All right, and we'll continue this with announcements from the City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Shamrow. I do have a few announcements this evening. I want to thank everybody who attended the Community Summit that just ended about an hour ago, and those who stayed engaged throughout the entire strategic planning process. We're going to hear more about that tonight. Some recreational updates. This Saturday, the Clinch Park Splash Pad is slated to open for the season, and the disc golf baskets have been installed at Hickory Hills. Maintenance of one of our primary settling tanks is happening this week starting today, which will require moving of one of the tank covers at the wastewater treatment plant. To mitigate odors, they're going to be sealing off the covers at the end of each day. Fortunately, the winds will be coming from the north to northeast most of the week, but just there may be some odors. The 31st Annual Smart Commute Week is June 2nd through 6th. This is a fun-free celebration that encourages community members to cycle, walk, bus, and carpool with daily free breakfasts for smart commuters. I wanted to touch high level on two of the consent calendar items that are before you tonight, Commissioners. Item 8 is an exciting multi-jurisdictional project to improve water pressure at the Commons. Work has been done between the city, Garfield Township, and the Joint Rec Authority's Historic Parks Barn and the county's Brownfield Authority. It's been an excellent example of intergovernment collaboration. And item 9 is a purchase order for street painting. I just wanted to let you know that the city has received feedback from commissioners and the public to look into improved markings, particularly at crosswalks and the symbols such as bike sharrows. So we are looking forward to bringing some of this work in-house so that we can make those improvements more timely. Officially incorporated on May 18th, 1895, the city of Traverse City turned 130 years old yesterday. Happy birthday.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot it was during
And
COVID.
last but not least, the city offices and governmental center will be closed on Monday, May 26th in observance of Memorial Day. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. And now announcements from the City Clerk, please.
Yes, I've got some meetings to announce for this week, the week of May 19th. The Planning Commission will meet on May 20th. That's Tuesday, May 20th at 6 p.m. in the Commission chambers. The Arts Commission will meet on Wednesday, May 21st at 3:30 p.m. in the committee room, which is on the second floor of the Governmental Center. And we do have a number of volunteer opportunities for folks who might want to serve on different city boards and committees. They include the Downtown Development Authority Board, Local Officers Compensation Commission, Parks and Recreation Commission, and Brown Bridge Advisory Committee. Anyone interested in serving is encouraged to contact the city clerk's office. And then just a general announcement that we do have packets for those interested in running for city commission. Those are available in our office.
This as well with some really amazing students from around our area. I also got the award when I was in 5th grade. I'll just put that plug out there. I just wanted to also say that our own Lauren Tribble-Lout, our city attorney, who is not here this evening, but one of her children was honored, as well as some other people from our community. But I thought that was a nice way to see somebody outside of a meeting. So with that, I will read this declaration proclaiming, May 19th as Youth Appreciation Day. Whereas the Traverse City Optimist Club has designated May 19th, 2025 as Youth Appreciation Day, and the future of our community, nation, and world rests in the hands of our youth, whose energy, creativity, and determination continue to inspire positive change. And whereas young people embody the promise of a brighter tomorrow through their ambition, passion, and commitment to growth and innovation and learning. Sorry, I left that out. And whereas Youth Appreciation Day provides an opportunity to honor and recognize the vital contributions of youth to society and to engage them in pursue their dreams, express their talents, and engage in activities that foster personal development and the well-being of others. And whereas the importance of supporting, empowering, and nurturing the potential of young individuals cannot be overstated, as they are the leaders, creators, and change makers of today and tomorrow. Whereas the importance of supporting, empowering, and nurturing the potential of young individuals cannot be overstated, as they are, sorry, I just reread that, sorry. Whereas communities across the country are encouraged to celebrate the accomplishments, aspirations, and potential of all young people, while also providing them with the resources, opportunities, and guidance necessary for their continued success and growth. Now, therefore, I, Amy Shamrow, Mayor of the City of Traverse City, do hereby proclaim Monday, May 19th, 2025 as Youth Appreciation Day in recognition of the invaluable contributions of young people and their vital role in shaping the future. I, along with the Traverse City Optimist Club, call upon all citizens to join together in celebrating the spirit of youth and continue supporting their growth, development, and achievement. And I look around all the students today, many future leaders, whether you know it or not yet. And so I'm very glad that many of you are here today while we give this award over. So I'll let you know, say a few words. Here you are.
Thank you. Yes, this is one of our hands-on projects that we do and include families and children to this. Fifth graders are honored. They are voted on usually by their peers with, in accordance with helping with the teachers and also principal staffs. So the entire Traverse City School District was invited, and we had a little over 100 people today. So it was a joyful day, and it was very nice to have our mayor there. Thank you, Amy. Thank you.
I did a better job reading the proclamation there. Sorry about that. Well, thank you, and we get to continue to kind of honor more in our community today. And I see our friends out there for safe boating, so I'll invite them in. Thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure to do this one. Okay, so this is the City of Traverse City Proclamation declaring May 17th through 23rd, 2025 as National Safe Boating Week. Whereas nearly 100 million Americans, boating continues to be a popular recreational activity. From coast to coast and everywhere in between, people take to the water and enjoy time together boating, sailing, paddling, and fishing. During National Safe Boating Week, the U.S. Coast Guard and its federal, state, and local safe boating partners encourage all boaters to explore and enjoy America's beautiful waters responsibly. And whereas safe boating begins with preparation, the Coast Guard estimates that human error accounts for most boating accidents and that life jackets could prevent nearly 75% of boating fatalities. Through basic boating safety procedures, carrying life-saving emergency distress and communications equipment, wearing life jackets, attending safe boating courses, participating in free boat safety checks, and staying sober when navigating, we can help ensure our boaters on America's coastal, inland, and offshore waters stay safe throughout the season. And whereas National Safe Boating Week is observed to bring attention to important life-saving tips for recreational boaters so they may have safer, more fun experiences on the water year-round, and whereas on average, 650 people die each year in boating-related accidents in the U.S., 75% of those are fatalities caused by drowning. Michigan ranks 7th in the nation for boating accidents and fatalities. Whereas the vast majority of these accidents are caused by human error or poor judgment and not by the boat, equipment, or environmental factors. And whereas a significant number of boaters who lose their lives by drowning each year would be alive today if they'd worn their life jackets. Therefore, I, Amy Shamrow, Mayor of the City of Traverse City, do hereby support the goals of the Safe Boating Campaign and the start of the year-round effort to promote safe boating and proclaim May 17th through 23rd, 2025 as National Safe Boating Week. And I want to thank you all for being here. We mentioned all the partners in here, but also we are very fortunate to have a Coast Guard station here and being on this beautiful water. Everybody's continued efforts to keep us safe. So I'll let you say a few words, though. Here you are.
Thank you. Just want to take a couple seconds and reinforce that we are the Coast Guard Auxiliary. We are the uniformed volunteer component of the United States Coast Guard. We serve totally without compensation, and we are involved in wide range of applications. Foremost among them is recreational boating safety. We would just encourage everyone to wear life jackets, to boat responsibly, to file a float plan so people know where you are and when they expect you back. And we just hope everyone has a safe summer on the water.
Thank you. Thank you guys for all your efforts and especially for being volunteers and doing it. I know we've done this for many years and some of you are very familiar faces, so thank you. All right, and lastly, we have proclamation for National Police Week. Do we have anybody here today to accept that? I believe we've given our staff the evening off from this meeting, so I'll just go ahead and read it though. We had also, there was a ceremony around the flag last week, so we did have something here on the campus of the Governmental Center for all of our law enforcement officers for the county and the city. So the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America and Congress assembled that the President is authorized and requested to issue proclamations designating May 15th of each year as Police Officers Memorial Day in honor of the federal, state, and municipal officers who have been killed or disabled in the line of duty, designating in each year the calendar week during which May 15th occurs as Police Week in recognition of the service given by the men and women who night and day stand guard in our midst to protect us through enforcement of our laws, and inviting the governments of their states and communities and the people of the United States to observe such a day and week with appropriate ceremonies and activities. Traverse City law enforcement officers, like all law enforcement officers, are guardians to life and property, defenders of individual rights to be free people, warriors in the war against crime, and dedicated to the preservation of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I call upon all of our citizens to make every effort to express their appreciation to our police officers. These men and women make it possible for us to leave our homes and families in safety each day and return to our homes knowing that they are protected by police officers who are willing to sacrifice their lives, if necessary, to guard our loved ones, our property, and our government against those who would violate the law. I, Amy Shamrow, Mayor of the City of Traverse City, proclaim May 1st through 17th as 2025 as National Police Week and encourage all citizens of our community to honor and show sincere appreciation for the police officers of this great city by deed, remark, and attitude. Thank you for that. Pass on to Chief.
Thank you.
Some nice reminders of all the diverse kind of community efforts in our area today. So thank you for everybody for taking that moment. And now with that, we will move on to our consent calendar and get back to business here.
Yes, the purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public can ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed from it and placed elsewhere on the agenda for individual consideration by the commission, and such requests are automatically respected. If an item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted in parentheses on the agenda is approved by a single commission action adopting the consent calendar. Item 1, consideration of approving minutes of the May 5th, May 12th, and May 14th, 2025 meetings of the City Commission. Approval recommended. Item 2, consideration of authorizing an amendment to the legal services agreement in connection with the June 2024 cyber incident, which would increase the total not to exceed costs by $7,000 as recommended by the city attorney and as required by the city charter. Approval recommended. Item 3, consideration of authorizing renewal of a lease with Chubby Unicorn LLC for its use of city property adjacent to its business for outdoor dining purposes. Approval recommended. Item 4, consideration of authorizing the renewal of a lease with a Workshop Brewing Company for its use of city property adjacent to its business for outdoor dining purposes. Approval recommended. Item 5, consideration of authorizing the renewal of a lease with JNS Hamburg for its use of city property adjacent to its business for outdoor dining purposes. Approval recommended. Item 6, consideration of authorizing an amendment to the agreement for Boardman Lake Loop Trail maintenance, which would extend the agreement by 1 year and is paid for by the endowment held by the Grand Traverse Regional Community Foundation. Approval recommended. Item 7, consideration of authorizing an amendment to an agreement for engineering services, including traffic engineer, bridge scour assessments, and other as-needed general civil engineering tasks to extend the agreement by 1 year. Approval recommended. Item 8, consideration of authorizing an agreement for water system improvements and consideration of waiving the competitive bidding process for construction engineering services which will provide improved water service to buildings and occupants at the Grand Traverse Commons campus and City and Garfield Township Recreational Authority's historic Barnes Park. Approval recommended. Item 9, consideration of authorizing a purchase order for the painting of street line markings and center lines in calendar year 2025 and authorizing the city manager to approve up to 2 one-year extensions as contemplated in the bidding documents. Approval recommended. Item 10, consideration of authorizing a blanket purchase order for the resale of fuel at the Duncan L. Clinch Marina. Approval recommended. Item 11, consideration of approving the fireworks display permit for the Boom Boom Club for July 4th, 2025. Approval recommended. Item 12, consideration of authorizing the fireworks display permit for the National Cherry Festival for July 5th, 2025. Approval recommended. And finally, item 13, consideration of approving the Recreational Authority fiscal year 2025-2026 budgets as required by authority bylaws. Approval recommended.
Would any city commissioner like any item pulled from the consent calendar? Seeing none, would anybody from the public like any item pulled from the consent calendar? Seeing none, would anybody like to make a motion? The notion for a motion.
I move that the consent calendar be adopted as read.
Support.
Great, thank you for that. We already had comments, so all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And just to make that clear, because it's unusual, 4th of July is a Friday this year, last day of Cherry Festival, which is always when the National Cherry Festival does their fireworks show to close out, is the next day on July 5th. So there will be 2 fireworks nights, 2 nights in a row in the city of Traverse City. Either get excited or brace yourself, depending how you feel about that.
And then don't we have another fireworks the next month
Not here.
that the city has approved?
Oh, yeah, well, but not a public show, so no. Old business, we'll move on to that now, item number 1, and this is the city manager's budget for fiscal year 25-26, so go ahead, Liz.
Thank you, Mayor Shamro. Yes, we are here tonight for the public hearing regarding the various different budgets that were presented by city staff and treasury at our last study session. And so I believe at this point, do we need to open the public hearing?
Yep, and sorry, I meant to ask Benjamin for a gavel, and yet again, have forgotten. So I will now open up the public hearing on the 25-26 budget.
And now, at this time, if anyone wants to comment on the proposed budgets for the upcoming fiscal year, we ask you to come to the podium. Anyone wish to comment? All right, great. We've got someone coming, and I'll just state the rules for public comment for every agenda item tonight. If you're willing, please state your name and address. Indicate if you're a city resident, non-city resident, or city business owner. We have a 3-minute time allotment. When your time has elapsed, the timer will beep. And we ask that all language be respectful to everyone. Thank you.
Fred Bimber, 1223 Randolph Street, city resident. I emailed to the city commissioners a letter this afternoon. I'll emphasize just one point in it, the biggest point. Altogether, the objections I have to the DDA proposed budget total about $3 million in the next fiscal year. The largest item is the proposed construction of a pavilion on Lot B, allegedly for the farmers market. I don't think that's an improvement that actually has the support of most vendors. I spoke with most of them on the first day that the farmers market was open this May, and only 4 of the people I spoke to, of the vendors, expressed any approval of the idea of putting up a pavilion. One person scoffed at the idea and thought it was silly. Another said that she thought it would never happen because the parking lot produced more revenue than the farmers market does for the city. A third said it would be better to put the money instead into repairing the parking lot surface so that his customers wouldn't injure themselves getting to his stand. What did impress most of the vendors that were there was the fact that they had the chance to reach the Traverse City market as it was, to make more sales than they could in any other local farmers market, and that's what was really important to them. The farmers market, as it is great. It's hectic, it looks chaotic, it may not be attractive to somebody who takes an interior decoration approach to urban planning, but it works. You go there, Lot T looks like a beehive with all the customers coming in, and Lot B is great the way it is. It has all the chaos of a naturally evolved market with people putting up their own pop-up tents that don't cost the city taxpayers anything, and it works. They make more sales than they can in Sutton's Bay, Interlochen, Building 50, or any other local farmers market. Keep it as it is. Don't approve $2.8 million of taxpayer money to put up a pavilion that isn't really useful to the vendors and that they don't want. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred.
Is there, and thank you, oh, were you coming to the podium? All right.
So, Richard Robbins from 720 Center Place. I'm coming to you as a resident of the city. I have recently had an opportunity to do a lot of cycling around our state. One of the key areas I cycled was Holland, Michigan, as well as Ann Arbor last week when I was in Lansing lobbying the legislators for better cycling infrastructure. As part of that, I was able to view the pavilions, the farmers market pavilions, in both of those cities that were used very robustly by all of the vendors, and the vendors loved it because they could back their trucks up, and that what they could do is stay warm and dry on rainy days, and also provide some shelter for their patrons. So, and as well, I was a resident for many years in Grand Rapids, and they have the Fulton Street Market, which is a tremendous success that has been expanded. These types of markets in all of the progressive cities in our state have been very well received. And so if there are design considerations, that's fine, but I think that these types of covered pavilions are extremely useful and create a very warm environment for farmers market participants. So that's my position.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to comment on the proposed budgets? I'll ask one more time. Anyone wish to comment on the proposed budgets? All right, with that, Mayor Shammer, you can close the public hearing, and of course, no action is requested
Right.
for tonight.
Yep, public hearing is closed, and just to clarify that, often, I shouldn't say often, sometimes we will have public hearings with action after. There will be another budget discussion in the early part of June, is it 2nd?
June 2nd.
I thought so. Look at me remembering the date. So there will be other time, there's more time still if other people want to add public comment or reach out to us about anything upon further investigation of our budget. Moving on now, we are on to something that I'm very excited about. As the city manager mentioned, we just had a kind of a community gathering to talk about the draft strategic action plan, but now we're going to get it here for us.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Shamro. Yep, our community summit, the sort of capstone to this process that started last fall, was just held at the senior center from 4:30 to 6, and it was very well attended, so thank you for those who attended. And I'd like to introduce David Burrell from Future IQ. He's going to provide a presentation on the final phase of this process and the draft strategic action plan for the meeting. So thank you, David.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for the invitation to address you and talk about the strategic action plan. And I'm really glad you raised the Future Summit we had today with the community. I think we had about 50 people there, and a lot of those people had been in other sessions, so it was a really nice continuity to see people who had been part of crafting the action plan and attending workshops and focus groups and so on, to be there to give their comments on the final stages. We did send you a sort of a preliminary draft at the end of last week. There are still some things to update in that. Obviously, we pulled down some of the prioritisation survey data before the survey closed. It closed late on Friday night. So we'll be providing you an update on that quite soon. But just to recap, I wanted to just take a few moments, if I could, just to sort of talk a little about the process, what the sort of high-level results are so far, and then how I think you can use this information that's come from the community. So this was very much a process that was about exploring a future vision. So a significant component of the initial community engagement was about trying to understand and explore preferred direction and vision for the future. And it provides a framework for a high-level roadmap. On your requirement, it was very much a community-driven process. So we work really hard to try and provide as much opportunity as we could for people in the community to weigh in on this and have their kind of contribution or their input into what they saw as important going forward. Some of the metrics on that, we've had over 1,500 what we call high quality data points, and these are where people have participated in either, workshops that are an hour or more long or taken quite extensive surveys. And so we're really pleased with the sort of the depth of the engagement and how penetration across the community. I'll show you some data on that. We also did work really hard to provide multiple opportunities and ways for people to participate. So in-person workshops and think tanks, online surveys, and so on. And we're really reaching the point now where I think what's coming into focus is a set of priority ideas that the community has identified as important, and they're there for your consideration as commission and as staff in the city. In terms of engagement, we had multiple events and over 1,500 people, as I said. One of the questions that often comes up in these type of processes which is where you're going to be making decisions or budget allocations or recommendations based on the information that's come out of this. People want to know that is the data representative? Is the input that was received, does that really reflect the community or has it got any biases in it? And I put this data together just to show you at the level of the 2 surveys we did. So we did one big community survey and we've just had a very recent prioritisation survey that closed on Friday. On the left-hand column, you'll see there's the age breakdowns in the community, so the 10-year increments. And then the number of people in the 2003 estimates of the population in Traverse City. You can see there, if you take out the under 19s, because we had no survey responses from that group, so taking that out, we have about 12,000 residents in the community. And the percentages are then broken down by age group. So if you look at the column that says Survey 1, that tells you the number of responses from each of those age groups and the percent. So you can see in that the sample slightly oversamples the 60-plus population, right? And that's not uncommon that people in that age group tend to participate in these type of surveys a little bit more aggressively. We're slightly underrepresented in the under 50s sort of age category. But I think what balances this is that we had a predominance of people in that 30 to 50 age group who attended the focus groups where we developed the actions. So I think on balance, we've got a really strong representation. So the main survey was 10% of the population participated, and I think we've got a good balance of perspectives of different demographics. In the report, don't expect you to read that, but in the report, we've broken out the, did some analysis on open-ended responses, and by age group, we looked at what were the key sentiments that people reflected, what were the key differences of those groups. And I think why I'm showing you this is that in crafting a strategic plan for a city or a large community, you know that there are different parts of your population. There are people who are at different phases of their life or live in different neighbourhoods, and they may have slightly different topics that are important to them or priorities that they want to bring forward in a process. So what we've tried to work in this process is to make sure that those different pockets are represented. So, we very intentionally understand the data from different neighbourhoods and different age groups. So we've broken some of that out in the report. We feel comfortable that we did scan that, and the issues that are important to various sections of the population are represented in the action plan. I'm going to just show you an example, then I want to sort of move to the prioritisation survey. As you know, I've presented this before. We've been working on these 6 key focus areas, which we call the strategic pillars. These were developed at the strategic roundtable we held with stakeholders and community residents. They were built out further in focus groups. So for an example, we had one pillar was around proactively managing urban design. We had a focus group work on that extensively. From that input, for each of these pillars, we've drawn out 4 of the high-level actions that the people in the community are saying are important. So this is the presenting the ideas from the community. You can see here in this case, they talked about things like proactively designing future corridors, building design guidelines and things like that. Each of the pillars has these 4 core actions and a bold idea. The The idea with the bold idea is that it pulls out something that people had a lot of enthusiasm or passion around, right? So we're presenting actions that are, I guess you would consider reasonable actions, but we're trying to push the boundaries a little by saying, well, if you want to really get bold, this was a topic that people saw that there could be some bolder thinking around. So we're doing that in each of the pillars in the report. But I want to turn to the prioritisation survey, and I just have a couple of slides here to talk about, and then I want to sort of conclude with what I see as the key takeaways from the community. We did ask people to rank the 6 pillars. It drew out a couple of pillars that were sort of the highest level of priority. That was around this urban design. That topic of proactive urban design has been a really strong sentiment through this process. I think people really understand that, and they really want to see the city grab hold of that and be very intentional about design and all the pieces that come under that. That also ties into the placemaking and neighbourhood character, but also supporting environmental sustainability and building a year-round economy were also, you know, highly rated pillars. But if I go to the prioritisation matrix, we asked people to take those 24 actions and rate them on their 3 dimensions. One was impact, that's the left-hand sort of column. Boldness, how bold do they think we should be, and the sense of urgency about those. And I know most of you have seen this data. The darker the colour, essentially in those rectangle boxes, the darker the colour, the higher rated it was. So the more important it was, or the bigger impact that people saw in the community. And I think it's pulled out really a set of themes that have resonated with people, or people have expressed all the way through this process. And if I was just to highlight those, I think there's a whole aggregate of issues and ideas around that urban design that people identified as really important. That comes into focus here, where people have said that what they would love to see would be doing some planning on future corridors. So the areas that are going to be facing redevelopment, or, you know, are going to come under pressure, and they see those as opportunities to build in a lot of sort of, I don't know, features for locals, you know, sort of gathering spaces, you know, getting all the character right. That was a really interesting, strong theme that was repeated through a lot of the prioritisation. Another one that's there is about sort of this regional collaboration and shared government services, and I know you just had a recent meeting with the county. I think people see a lot of benefit in those collaborations. They know that's hard, that it takes time to build trust, and, you know, you have to think about sharing resources and, you know, bringing new voices into the discussion, but people do see potential in that sort of approach. Another 2 that I thought that really jumped out was there was a lot of interest around housing, obviously, because that's a key issue here. The action that was identified in the process that people rated highly was this idea of thinking about how do we get more full-time residents living in the core neighbourhoods. Now, there's a real sort of concern and opportunity. The concern is that those sort of attractive neighbourhoods may hollow out with second homeowners, or, you know, seasonal vacancy. People really want to see those areas be really core, vibrant, sort of, you know, full-time resident type components of the community. I think people have a deep concern the community could drift into being like a tourist town where you're just a prop and a sideshow. I mean, people want this to be a real community, a full community, a complete community. Really tough topic. Like, how do you think about encouraging more full-time residents in your core areas? But I think that's something people would love to see action on. Another one which was really quite tactical is childcare. Came out as actually across the board the highest rated issue, where people see it having potential big impact. They want boldness, and it's urgent. And that's new. That wasn't in your goals and objectives 4 years ago, although you have at different points hit on childcare. But that's come out as something that the community has said, yep, if you're going to ask us, that's what we think. You know, we think childcare is a really important issue. And then there are a couple of others that came out high. Obviously, the environmental sustainability and continuing to work on that is a very deep and core value to this community. But people also see opportunity in diversifying the economy with, looking at perhaps more advanced manufacturing and so on, right? So that's sort of where we got to, right? If I could just kind of conclude with this, right, is the way I would encourage the community to think about using this work, and way I'd encourage yourself as commissioners and city, is that, you asked for the community to have their input, and they've done that, right? They've participated really effectively, and have really sort of worked this through to identify what I think are a series of very interesting, perhaps challenging, but very impactful priority areas, right? And I think they're sort of giving the sort of blessing or the desire to see those areas worked on. The way I've been talking to the community about it is that what this provides an opportunity for is a framework. It identifies potential new initiatives and focus areas, some of which require more attention and deliberation. Some of these work has already started, but some are new. But they certainly require some sort of thinking and extra work. I suspect a lot of the sentiment that's in the actions that people have brought forward can help guide future planning decisions, particularly thinking about guidelines and approaches to planning, thinking of the corridor redevelopments and so on. I think there's just a wealth of information in here to help frame your next set of goals and objectives, and perhaps even budget priorities to think about how do you sort of, direct your staff and your policy and your resources to start to address these set of issues that the community's brought forward. And also, I think it importantly reframes your role a little as commissioners and as city leadership in a regional context. So that regional collaboration was a key pillar, and I think people see a lot of value potentially in Traverse City, the city of Traverse City, leading some of these discussions about how do we work together better, how do we build our influence, how do we tackle some of these big issues like housing or workforce or transportation, which are really regional issues, as are sustainability issues. But they have also said quite clearly that they've got appetite for boldness and innovation. So I do think there's permission and perhaps a mandate to think quite sort of innovatively and boldly about solutions and moving quickly on some of these. Of course, this is great, but it sort of now runs up against the practicalities and the realities of life. A lot of these ideas were created in the absence of, the full set of constraints which you deal with from a framework. So I do think managing expectations and sort of talking this through with people and being able to find creative solutions is going to be important. I have, even today, talked to the community about they've got to think like this is turning a ship. That doesn't happen immediately, right? So, but this set of sort of ideas they've brought forward and their priorities, I do think can guide some of the development and the thinking as you go forward in your processes of decision-making and budget allocation and so on. So I'll leave it at that. I'll just sum up by saying I think this has been a really effective process. I've been really touched, actually, and impressed by the way the community has weighed in on this. I mean, people have come with, aggravation on some issues and concern, deep concern on others, but have really applied themselves to the task of, thinking this through, right? Thinking about what are our choices for the future, thinking about the implications of our direction, what can we do about it, and really working to frame up a set of ideas that are in the realm of aspirational and plausible at the same time. So it pushes the boundaries. It's not setting anybody up for some unrealistic sort of result, but I do think it's a really exciting set of ideas that can really give some momentum to the community to wrestle with bigger challenges. So thank you.
Any commissioners, questions or, share? Go ahead, Heather.
It's really more of a comment.
Yeah, that's fine.
I found that this was a really valuable and interesting process. I met a lot of people, not only from the city of Traverse City, but from the greater Grand Traverse region. I really like that this is a community-driven document that we can use to set policies rather than a top-down sort of blueprint that's we know best kind of thing. Lots of great key action items that we can sink our teeth into, some of them that we've already started. I'm very excited about this. I feel like I'm going to use this document a lot. However, all day long, we've had jargon problems with pillar number 4. So I have a suggestion for you.
Sure.
That you call it Building a Complete Community, which is actually kind of the subtitle of the pillar. And maybe switch the jargon out with Building a Complete Community, and maybe get some more interest in that pillar.
Yeah, a really, really great comment, and we heard that today too about
In the morning
the
and
sort of
the
languaging.
afternoon.
And it is a sort of a translation, because I mean it is a strategic plan, so it is going to hit on language and philosophies or approaches to professions like planning and trends around urban development and urban renewal and urban design and so on. But we did get the message of this also needs to get translated so that it's very consumable for people, right? And I think we'll do some sort of summary elements of this as well. I mean, it's got a really strong scientific basis, but we also want to make sure that it's easy for people to grasp and understand. But I love your suggestion about
Well, like
flipping
you
it.
said, it didn't get a lot of interest when it was just the pillar. How interested are you in the pillar? But then when you broke it down into those key action items, it got a lot of interest.
It did,
So
yes.
something's missing there.
Yeah, good comment. Thank you.
No, I just wanted to echo that sentiment. I was surprised that the pillar that, all 6 pillars are important, but the one that ranked the least had the highest in urgent, bold, and impact, which is that childcare piece. And we've already started to talk about that in the form of summer camp. And that is actionable. And of course, it may require a budget amendment. After the budget is approved, we haven't identified that in this year's budget, but that doesn't mean that we can't quickly pivot and work with the team to figure out that that is something that the city has done before. But through this commission's direction and guidance, we can make those pivots. And the other thing too is with our neighborhood associations. We've had 3 new neighborhood associations come online just in the last 14, 15 months, and we're working on being more strategic in how we reach out to them. So again, that's a really nice action item that was already fizzling in the background, but now we've got it in front of us that that's what the community wants. So I'm energized. I'm excited to see those move forward.
Go ahead.
Yeah, don't forget Complete Streets, which
yeah.
is all about building a people-centric city. And
We already did the budget amendment, right?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for that. Any other comments or questions from the commission? Go ahead, Jackie.
Just to say thank you.
Yes.
You exceeded my highest hopes for community engagement, and it feels like we now have the tools that we need to be able to set priorities, spend accordingly, make sure that our budget expenditures do align with our community values, because we've got such a clear document that helps us to understand those values. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you, and I'll pass that credit straight back to the community for the work they did. They showed up, they turned out, they contributed, they put their thoughts forward. So the credits to them.
Yes, thank you. I'll just take a moment and say, first of all, David, I thank you as well, and I think how you've handled those conversations shows how staff, I can clearly see why staff chose you all after the interview, and how you kind of interact with everyone, including from us up here to the people in the conversations you held. And kind of just as a general note, it's been said and can't be repeated enough that I'm really excited to have this document to work from that is, I think as Heather said, from the bottom up instead of top down. It's not us guessing and having the community affirm or push back. It's coming up from the community. We had a presentation from Barry Dunn a couple of months ago about kind of how our commission interacts and does things. And I remember one of the statements was, hey, as long as you're on board for this as a commissioner for like 80% or more, this is a great plan. And I think that's the key too, is every single one of us might not agree with every single point as was made, but this is what our community has told us we wanted, and it's a really important document to have. No one, including our former city manager, can remember the last time we did something like this. So we're setting a really good precedent too, because this is a 10-year plan, but as you've said throughout, I just wanted to reiterate that, as you've said, checking in constantly, but especially at 5 years and doing, so this isn't just something that's gonna, I don't think we'd say it would sit on the shelf as it was, but it's also meant to be living and breathing. And so I appreciated that sentiment as well. I just wanted to, and I'm going to say this because there's a lot of students in the audience. Is anybody in TAC Ready's class? because you can get extra credit if you make a public comment. Benjamin and I were in class when he said that. And so because we were talking about jargon and vernacular, which are also two great words, I just wanted to kind of summarize some of what David up here was saying in case you wanted to maybe comment on this item. There's not an action on it, but because it is our strategic plan and it is a community engagement feature, I am going to allow for public comment. So some of the major issues or things that we need to address that came up that David was highlighting are creating spaces for people, making more people-focused streets or ways to get around, housing, cost of housing, availability of housing, what our neighborhoods look like, full-time residents, childcare, environmental impacts. We have our own utility. That got brought up. It wasn't as high ranking, but we have what can we do with that to protect our environment, both as having a utility and just being a location on the water. Diversifying our economy. And one of the things that David didn't touch on as much today, but did at the presentation before this, is working on sustainable tourism. It was, I think Heather should pointed it out at the last presentation. We're kind of, I won't say we're well ahead, but we're on a good pace for some of these items that we just are going to continue to improve on. But tourism is something that was noted that we're a little behind where we should be. And by sustainability, it's both environmentally sustainable, but also economically and community sustainable, so it doesn't overwhelm us. So I just wanted to do kind of a hopefully more layman's summary of that. No offense to you, David, but in case any students wanted to make any public comments on this, because you are the future, as we had in the youth appreciation statement, and others, whether you choose to stay here or you come back here one day or whatever, if you want to make some public comment, you can be heard as part of this process now too. So, yep, David will let you retreat. And so with that, even though we do not have a motion, I'm going to open it up. Does anybody, and it doesn't just have to be students, I'm just pointing out that they can get extra credit if they want. When your page is signed, we'll make note you said something. But anybody at all, general public or students, want to make public comment about the strategic plan presentation and what was here tonight, if you took part or anything you want to share. Come on. All right. Missing out on extra bonus points if you're in TAC Ready's class, just going to point that out.
Thought we didn't sign unless.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilson has just made a rule that you don't get a signature unless you public comment. That is a joke. Sorry, I don't want to scare anybody.
Sorry.
But Benjamin and I presented to several of the classes. Maybe some of you were in them, the faces blurred, but that was reassured that you would get bonus points.
That's right.
No takers? You guys can walk up together even.
Maybe at a future agenda item.
Yes, well, we tried. All right, well, thank you, everybody, for listening on that part. There will be more presentations. On the second, we'll have a presentation here to the commission, and we'll definitely be enacting this and moving forward. So with that, we will now move on to the resolution on design build contract for the wastewater treatment plant.
Thank you, Mayor Shamro. We have reached a really important milestone in this impressive and very big project for the wastewater treatment, primary treatment, and UV projects. And I will, unless you have, I think I'll just turn it over to Art, he's been with this from the very beginning.
Coordination efforts with Jacobs, who manage and operate the system at the plant. But some of these components are from the 1930s, 1950s, and 1970s. So it's an exciting project. There's a lot going on. It's a smaller site. It's kind of compact. We don't have a lot of extra space over there. So, and if you think about wastewater, you can't just turn the switch off at night and then hope, it doesn't keep coming in. People are still using their facilities at home overnight, and wastewater is coming into the plant. So to operate the plant around a project of this magnitude is a very important task because it has to keep running. So we have to run it in different patterns and use our different redundant processes. While we work on one side, we're using the old side, and then vice versa. We'll switch it over. So anyway, this is a project that we've been awarded some funding, thankfully, through the state of Michigan, the Clean Water State Revolving Fund, CWSRF. Initially, we were awarded just over $31 million. Preliminary estimates were around that number. And since we've moved through the process of design and getting to this guaranteed maximum price, with our contractor that's working on this project from the beginning. The prices have gone up. Different elements, have in the marketplace. Bid items have, increased due to many factors. So the fact that the 90% design came in, we actually came in under that when we're presented this guaranteed maximum price. So this is what the contractor is committing to actually build this project. And it's about 1.2 million less than the estimate when we were at 90% design. The numbers are all in the memorandums, but basically the 90% design was $36.7 million. The guaranteed maximum price is about 1.2 million less than that, so it's 35.5 million. So before you tonight, I'm requesting approval of 3 items to continue down this path to success for the project. We have an award, or a tentative award for construction to accept the guaranteed maximum price, and that is in your packet. The reason it's tentative is because we're anticipating a loan closing with the state in July. So following these milestone steps through the process with the state, we have to commit to it before the loan closing, but we're planning on that loan to close, I believe it's July 17th this year. So the approval of the resolution that's in your packet is one request. The next is working through this process with Jacobs involved as helping the city, as well as our consultant, Hubbell Roth Clark. There was an item in the guaranteed maximum price that included upgrading the SCADA integration processes for all the new equipment and new processes that we'll be bringing into this project. So SCADA is an acronym. Not many people know what it means, but it's Supervisory, Control, and Data Acquisition. Basically, it's like the computerized watchdog for the plant. It's monitoring all the processes, and all that information is coming into this computerized model. The operators can use this system to operate the plant. They can turn processes on, turn them off, pumps on, pumps off. And if anything gets out of whack from a range that's predetermined, it could be a level of water in a tank. It's simple as that. If it's out of range, a warning goes off, and the operators know that they have an alarm and they have to go address it in the plant. So it's a very important part of the plant operations. It's basically how the plant is operated and how it's managed and how the alarms are communicated. And so since Jacobs was awarded a SCADA integration project for the plant recently, they just completed that in the last month or so, it seemed appropriate for them to take on adding the new equipment as it's built and pulling it into the system that they designed. So the second request is to award an out-of-scope agreement to Jacobs, and that amount is about $386,111 or so. By taking it out of the general contractor scope of work, we're actually saving some markup that they would have to put on top of hiring a consultant or an integration company to do that. So this is a recommendation. It does add a little bit of cost to that GMP, that guaranteed maximum price, but even with that, we're still around $800,000 lower than that 90% estimate. And then the third request tonight is to approve approximately $225,000 of an expenditure to prior to the loan closing in July, so that we can order some key schedule items so we don't get behind with the contractor. They base their schedule on ordering some of these things up front. So there are a few items that just have a long lead time. We need to get a jump start on them before that money's available, say, in the loan in July. So that is about $225,000 that will be rolled into the loan if the city, if you approve it tonight and we pay it up front, so to speak, it'll roll into the loan. And so will the Jacobs SCADA integration services. That'll be rolled into the loan. So next meeting coming up in June, on June 2nd, I'll have about 2 more items related to this project coming before you. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel as far as approvals, which is great. There's a lot of work we've done in the past, and you've approved a lot of things along the way, and I'm grateful for that, and I think this is going to be a great project. Those 2 things are the city is out to bid right now for a on-site representative company, so a engineering type firm to be the eyes and ears for the city in our best interest while this construction is going on, work between Jacobs, the operations and management company that is there, and the contractor to make sure the city's best interests are being obtained through the construction project. By the way, it's going to be about a 3-year construction project, so this is a big undertaking. And the other item is a resolution. It's another tentative resolution for the total project cost amount, which is going to be presented in that June 2nd packet, and it's going to be in that 41 million range. I don't have the exact number yet. We're still working on a part 3 is called, there's an application that we got to turn in here by the end of May, which will have all this kind of finalized and packaged. So when you add cost to the guaranteed maximum price of 35.6 million there, the SCADA cost, we wanted additional contingency because there's a lot of things underground that we might run into. We have good records, but just for a project of this magnitude, we need some contingency built in. So when you add that in, about 4% more than what we already have. I think we have a 2% built into that. So we're on 6% contingency, and then oversight of on-site representative. That all sums up to around 41, just over 41 million. And so next meeting, we'll be looking to present that to you. But tonight, those 3 basic things that I had mentioned, hopefully you didn't forget by now, but they're in the packet. The GMP resolution, tentative award for construction, the out-of-scope agreement for SCADA integration services for the new project, and some upfront cost expenditures estimated at $225,000 to keep us on schedule. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions if you may have.
I know Benjamin wants to make a clarifying point, and then we'll have some questions.
I just wanted to add, just because we don't see these types of contracts very often, and the resolution for the tentative award does actually authorize execution of the contract. So the contract for the roughly $35.5 million piece of this work would not come back to the City Commission, provided, as indicated in the resolution, the financial arrangements with that Clean Water State Revolving Loan Fund go through. So just even though it says tentative, wanted to make it clear that the contract would be executed if you adopt this resolution and those financial arrangements are satisfied.
And I just had one more technical question, and then I'll open up for the generals. Art mentioned that this was also for the $225,000. Is that then included in that? Because the only number that's outlined in the motion is $386,111 as Art rounded it up to.
No, it's the $225,000 is in addition, and the motion does.
It's included in the other parts because it's
Right.
it's not spelled out though in the motion that particular figure.
You are right, and.
Or do we need to give you a minute to?
Yeah,
to massage
that's
that? Okay. Just making that
thank you,
point.
good point.
Don't want you guys to have to come back and have a special meeting the day after Memorial Day just to add some numbers. So with that, while Benjamin's massaging that, does anybody have any questions? Go ahead.
Yes.
So you say you're going to have this new computerized system dashboard that's going to alert you if you've got high over here or low over there. Is somebody at the wastewater treatment plant at 2 o'clock in the morning?
No, not on a routine basis. So the plant does run automatic, and I can let Mark add to this if or correct me if I'm wrong, but they have regular hours during the day. Someone's there till, I believe, 5 or 6 p.m. typically, but they're on call. They have selected operators that will take an alarm call if something goes out of whack.
Someone will be notified at
Yes.
2 o'clock in the morning if
Yes.
an alarm goes off.
Correct.
Probably not a lot of toilets and showering in November, but maybe in July and August, there are a lot of
Well,
toilets and
you never
flushing
know.
at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
But-
things happen, and Murphy's Law is always something we work
okay.
with,
That's
whether
all
we
I
like it
have.
or not. So,
Yeah.
yes.
And if Benjamin has a motion, he can read it, and I will
Make it
make it. yeah.
very good.
Yes, I'm ready whenever you are.
Go right ahead.
Okay, thank you. That the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute an out-of-scope agreement with Jacobs in the amount of $386,110.97 for SCADA integration services. Such contract subject to approval as to its substance by the city manager and its form by the city attorney, with funds to be covered by the CWSRF loan. And further, that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the necessary documents associated with UV shop drawings and final design items and design of 2 insertion valve with Commercial Contracting Corporation in the amount of $225,000. Such document subject to approval as to form by the city attorney and as to substance by the city manager, with payments to be reimbursed from loan proceeds upon loan closing. And further, that the resolution to tentatively award a construction contract for wastewater system improvements be adopted.
So that 225,000 was covered in that?
Yep, I
Okay.
did
That's
say
it,
that,
that's it,
yep.
yeah.
I'll make that motion.
All right,
I'll
well, we have
support that
Commissioner, no,
motion.
Commissioner Shaw did make the motion, to be fair, and I'll
all
have
right.
Commissioner Stanley
Second
second
that.
it, because she said whatever Benjamin has prepared, she's ready to make. So there we go. Any further comments or questions on this item? Fantastic. I know Art's been putting this together, and we've had many presentations, so thank you, Art. With that, I'm going to actually open it up for any public comment on this item. So if you didn't want to take on the strategic plan, do you have thoughts on the sewage treatment plant? Seeing none. I'll bring it back to the commission. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes, and thanks, Art. We'll see you on the second. So now item number 4 under old business is Commissioner Stanley, you've asked the city to bring back the traffic order 722, which is Madison Street, so I'll let you take that.
So this was at the request of the Slabtown Neighborhood Association and specifically resident Sam Shore. So the street was rebuilt. The parking signs are there. It's a beautiful street. I'm on it literally every day. And so I will let the city staff explain how we got to this point.
Thank you. Ann Pagano, city engineer. So this item was on the April 7th, 2025 agenda and no action was taken. So we wanted to just explain kind of how we got here. The Madison Street Improvement Project was constructed in 2023 after a thorough public process. The project was approved by the City Commission on January 17th, 2023. As part of the approved project, no parking signs were installed in 2023 on the west side of Madison Street between Front and Wayne to accommodate the neighborhood's desires of parking on one side of the street, reduce impervious paving, and provide traffic calming with the narrowing of the street. The associated traffic control order has not been formally approved, and staff recommends approving the TCO so that the no parking signs that have been in place for over 2 years actually may be enforced. And going forward, we just want to let you know that staff intends to bring these specific TCOs to the commission with our construction contracts, and we'll be doing that with 2 other items that are on the agenda this evening.
Great. Any questions for staff on this? Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Commissioners and community, my name is Deb Allen. I'm the Assistant City Manager and also the Chair of the Traffic Committee. And as you know, we've been working diligently with a lot of the department heads that are involved in managing our street projects to clean up some of the things that may have been missed in the past, and this is one of those items. It's just really a cleanup issue, and I'm very pleased to see that we're coming up with better processes to avoid these types of situations going forward, so I appreciate your support.
Fantastic. Now, any questions? Sorry about that, Deb. Appreciate that clarification. All right. Seeing none, then I'm sorry, can I get a motion, please?
I'll make the motion that the traffic control order 722, which prohibits parking on the west side of Madison Street between Front and Wayne Street, be permanently adopted.
Support.
Thank you, Commissioner Stanley and Mayor Pro Tem Wilson. I guess now I would say any further comments on this one? Seeing none, any public comment on this item? Oh, we got somebody here.
Good evening. My name is Sam Shore, and I'm with Slaptown Neighborhood Association, and also serve on the Traffic and Streets Committee of our association. And I just wanted to verify that we did, in fact, spend quite a bit of time both with city planning, city engineering. They provided a lot of information, came to our meetings, laid out blueprints, and explained all the different aspects to this, including the signage and the parking on one side of the street. And our understanding were, as city staff just now described, around safety, more permeable surface, which was a real issue on Madison, to get the water from running down into the storm sewer and out to the bay, to have more permeable services for that. So we were aware of that. People had a chance to comment all along the way. And so it was a useful process. So I thought this was a settled deal when the plan got approved. I was a little surprised when all of a sudden it came up and then was not approved again here. So I hope you'll choose to go ahead and make it permanent as designed and has been reviewed. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And I am going to make all the students here tonight they're incredibly lucky, because we have a commissioner that has something that has come up and we need to lose them. We are going to take a quick break, and during that time we will quickly sign for you all. You can get any of us up here, any of the staff over there. All of us are authorized to do it. You've got about 5 minutes, so let's make it a race. Except Mitch, because he's going to the bathroom apparently. Do not wonder.
Mitch Treadwell signatures. High value. High value resale.
Hi. How's it going? Good, good.
Yep.
Hi. I wouldn't be.
Sign yours.
Come on up.
Generous today.
Motion needed.
I'll send my comments in, because I'm not supporting it unless there's more. Well, now, if we,
Watch it, tune in. Tune in, type in your comments. Man, clear the room, huh? Meanwhile, we had an ad hoc that had only one interview for one seat. It was like 10 minutes.
They could have come to that.
10 minutes, there was 3 kids in there like, huh.
Right.
So I made them hang out for a minute and
Were
hear
some
us
of these
talk.
chairs added before we got here?
can't find anything about
I
it.
don't know. It looks like it, yeah.
So if we approve the budget,
We're actually,
is that the last that we see of it?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Oh,
that's,
right. Well,
that's important.
we're below capacity
We'll
now.
double check with you.
Oh, Yeah.
Might be the, the stormwater might be might already go through the money that's already been moved because it's out of one of the funds that doesn't need supervision, but it's in conjunction with the city plan, so that's because they're already going to do that parking lot no matter what, so.
like the highest of my level.
But yeah, ask those clarifying questions, but that was
Can't
my
get
understanding.
hotter. Sorry.
All right, well, I'll ask about the farm plan and.
Because it's one thing committing to it. Well, it's one thing to approve a budget as long as we still are going to see some plans, because I don't have any plans. And the other thing, I don't know what is phase 1 of the lower Boardman? There is no such nomenclature in anything.
There has been actually since the survey was done 2 years ago.
Well, I'm
and all
looking
the
at
stuff.
the big unified
Yes.
plan, there's no such thing.
Yeah, I'll have them clarify that. Lower Boardman.
Happened like 4 years later.
Because there'll never be a time to do the whole Boardman at once. So the phase 1 is kind of that initial of the parking lot and all of that. So I'll have them add clarifying documents. Farmers market plan, and you wanted final approval of farmers. Question mark.
Why, you want half?
No, I
You know, when you process stuff?
have some for you.
Oh, dang, you know that, there's some chemical that like never leaves your body.
Oh, they're Newman's.
I don't know, I just heard what I'm saying. Oh.
I'm filled with.
Well, I mean, the big firm.
Arrow.
All right, everybody, we're calling the meeting back to order in a minute here. I've lost one commissioner and I've lost another that's supposed to be here. So we'll see if we can retrieve one at least.
Oh, okay. I can do that.
We have a quorum though, right?
A commissioner had to leave.
Mine did.
She left all her notes sitting over there.
Yeah, I leave my notes.
Those are for me.
All right, we'll bring this meeting back to order and start with new business number 1, which is a presentation of the payment asset management plan.
Thank you, Mayor Shamrow. Tonight we have Frank Deturi, our Department of Public Services Director, and Chrissy Black, our GIS staff member, our asset management. They're here to give the pavement asset management report this evening, so take it away, Frank.
Thanks for the opportunity. Frank Deturi, Director of Public Services, and I just wanted to point out all the folks in the room that have been contributing to the effort. So Chrissy Black, she'll be coming up here. Don't get to see her very often. Tristan Graham, Tristan, you see Chris Weber behind me from Streets, has contributed to this. Ann Pagano, engineer, you know her very well. Zach Cole, here's Zach, and Art in DMU. So, and the assistant city manager also. It's a team effort. The asset management is totally a team effort, and we welcome the opportunity to talk a little bit about the pavement asset management plan. And you'll have a chance to hear about the plan at least 2 more times before it'll come before you 2 more times before sometime in August. And just want to let you know that it has been a team effort. Bless you. And look forward to giving you this presentation. I'll bring Chrissy up. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. As Frank said, I'm Chrissy Black. I'm the asset management analyst for the city, and I've been with the city for just over 21 years. It's been 12 years with the engineering department as a GIS technician, and then the last almost 9 in the Department of Public Services doing asset management. So we just wanted to come forward and introduce you to our pavement asset management plan. It is something we are currently working on, and as Frank said, once we have a draft, we'll also bring it back to you and let you guys have questions and those sorts of things. And then also come back another time and hopefully have you guys approve it. So let's start out by what we like to call the PAMP. It should again be another document that's living, breathing, changing, being updated, assessed yearly, but we're going to start with the next 5 years, 5 to 10 years. So it's going to let us look at optimizing our street reconstructions and street pavement preservation plans with our budget, right? Our budget and our city goals and purpose, I guess. So again, it's a data-driven approach that we're able to replicate year after year. So it's something that's very visible, being able to redo it year after year. Bless you. Bless you. And is transparent, right? We want everybody to understand how it's done, be able to get the questions and the answers we want, and know what we can or can't do with what budget that we have. So these are sort of the steps for our methodology. First, you've got to start with a inventory, right? We've had an inventory for many, many years. We have miles worth of Act 51 certified streets, both majors and locals. And then on the next step would be condition assessment. We Paiser rate every single year. It's not something that most communities do. It's not required to happen every year, but we like to go above and beyond, and we've been doing that since at least 2013. This is something that we are trained to do. It's something that is what the state, the Transportation Asset Management Council from the state of Michigan, is required us to do. They do not require us to do it every year, however. That's sort of an above and beyond type situation that we do. It then will go to a risk of failure analysis, which has a couple different components that I'm going to talk about tonight because I think they're the most important piece of this part for you guys to understand. So this is just a map of our inventory. And I also want to hit on the fact that we do have a public-facing Paiser rating dashboard. It's on our website. It's under maps, and it has all of our historical Paiser ratings on it, all the way back to 2013. You can go street by street. You can click on a street, and it will tell you all of the previous ratings and each year. And then on the right-hand side, it gives you the totals for each of the different classifications that TAMC, again, the Transportation Asset Management Council from the state, likes it broken out into. These are the different conditions that tell us like what treatments we would want to do for each road. So I encourage everybody to go out there and check it out. I think it's pretty cool. Okay, so the first piece of this risk assessment that we're going to do is the probability of failure. This is where you ask the question, how likely is this road that it's going to fail, right? So we already do these Paiser ratings, which are wonderful, and again, they've been proven and pushed by the state, so it's an industry standard in Michigan. So if you look at the top of this, in the top right corner of this slide, it gives a table. Based on the Paiser rating of each segment or block of road, we are going to assign it one of these probability of failure rating numbers. And then once we do this, we are able to decide, what is it as far as the probability that it will fail. So this is the first component of that analysis. Now, the second piece is the consequence of failure. And this is what happens and how serious is it if this fails. We look at a couple different things when we do this. We look at the geographic divides, and map's kind of small, but if you look at it, obviously we have a bay in the middle of the city. We have Boardman Lake, we have the Boardman River. These are all things that if we lost a bridge, we wouldn't be able to get across. If we lost one of, like 8th Street, there's definitely geographical divides, along with like Fitzhugh, for example. Fitzhugh is the only way up. There's no backside. I mean, there is, but it's not a city road. So we have to take into consideration that if Fitzhugh goes down, what implications are there? So we go ahead and we take a look at those. We also looked at our emergency routes. So those are obviously the most important, right? They provide our fire, our health care, and all of those sorts of things. So those would have a higher level of consequence. We've covered the limited access. And then we also have to take into consideration we have downtown, right, where the majority of maybe things happen. Economic impacts would be larger if we couldn't get to downtown. So pulling all of that together, we decided that the best way to do this is to use the national function classifications, which are already done for us. Major collectors, minor arterials, and other principal arterials and locals. Based on that and whether one of those is or is not an emergency route, because again, life, health, and welfare come first, we assigned these 5 through 1 ratings, okay? So once we have both of these ratings, we take them, we multiply them together, and that gives us our business risk. And that is the risk of failure analysis. With this number, the higher the risk. So once we have that, we can actually map each block of the city in a 1 through 25 on what the risk is if we have a failure of the street. And that helps us prioritize which roads need to be done before others. It's something we can redo year after year. It's all very transparent, and we just kind of wanted to let you guys know it's an industry standard, and the next steps for us will be that we will do this risk of failure analysis, and then once we have that data, we'll start working with our utility projects, right? Because we have capital improvement projects that are water, sewer, storm. And then we also have, again, the mobility, multi-modal mobility plan. And all of these things will be brought into this final report. So you can see what needs to be done. Then we'll bring it back to you guys once we have a draft and show you what we've produced and welcome questions and those sorts of things. And we'll also need to have a discussion about level of service goals with you. So like what percentage do we want of our, going back to the good, fair, poor, what percentage of roads are we okay with being poor? What are we okay with being fair and good? So we have some examples from other communities that have done this, and we'll go ahead and, kind of start with that, but you guys will have some input on what we change as far as that goes. And then once we have that discussion with you, we'll go back, make changes that we need to, and then we'll bring back the final to you guys. So we just sort of wanted to put that out there, let you guys know kind of what we're working on, because I think it's really important. It is something that we are not required to do right now by the state, but we will potentially be in the future. Any community with over 100 miles, which we do not have, of certified roads, are required to do this right now. So we're actually ahead of the game. We've always sort of been a leader in asset management in the state, and I think it's a great step forward.
Do we have questions from our commissioners? Go ahead, Jackie.
Sure. Thank you.
And there's on a motion, so you can make comments too. Sorry.
I've, as you know, I've been interested in looking for a correlation between traffic counts and priority for attention. And I don't know if it fits neatly within either one of your factors, but I guess I would think of it as convenience or as spending our dollars where they're going to have the benefit to the most users. And
Absolutely.
how does that factor in at all? What's the best way to think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you look at these consequence of failures and going back to the national function of classifications, 100% daily average traffic is in there. So if it's a major collector, it has a much higher daily traffic rate than, say, a local would. So there's actually like 4 different steps there in average traffic.
Could you, just to bring it home, could you give us an example of what might be a major collector road in Traverse City?
Sure, absolutely. Let's see here, 14th Street. 14th, 14th, 8th. It's not ours, but Munson, it's an MDOT road. You know, those sorts of, and we have a map. So if you ever wanted to see like the actual map of each one, we could definitely get you that.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
I have a quick question then in that vein. You know, I think since I was elected, and I'm saying this safely now because I believe the other one is under construction right now, or will be this summer. You know, we have certain streets like South Railroad that just got done last year that was pretty much dirt, and East 11th Street, which coincidentally I lived on before I lived right by Railroad, that people have complained about for years. And so, you know, I know that kind of comes into the consequence of failure number of how used a road is, but at the same time, you know, everyone's a taxpayer in the city of Traverse City. So at what point, how does that also factor in of, you know, yes, maybe there are streets that are going to always be busier than, you know, a smaller street over by the cemetery or something, but that's still a street that needs to be taken care of. At what is it just you find that through the numbers it kind of reveals itself and eventually and gets taken care of, or is that something that we really have to kind of factor in beyond just numbers?
Yeah, so that's definitely part of the equation for sure. It's not simply just we're only going to take care of the major roads. If you have a major road that has a much better PASER rating, that goes back to the PASER ratings. If you have a major road that's maybe at an 8, we're not going to do that before we do a local road that's a 2 or a 3, right? So it's just a portion of the actual equation. And also, too, utilities. Like Madison and Monroe had massive utility needs underneath of them. So even though somebody might say, and the roads were in bad condition, but maybe they weren't in as bad a condition as, say, a different road in town, they had more pressing utility needs. So it will all be coordinated. That's why I think the last thing in there is like the coordination with utilities to guide the order of the streets. And not just our utilities. We're going to talk to Light and Power. We're hopefully going to get input from DTE. The worst thing I can see happen is we have a brand new street and then we dig into it, because that right away brings down the PASER rating drastically.
Which kind of happened with Station over about 5 years.
Yeah.
But I know that's certain things are unavoidable, but
Right.
yes. So
Yeah.
That's good, because I do get people asking about, you know, I live on this section of, you know, let's say, you know, Titus, and they feel sometimes that the perception is, but 10th Street parts will always be done before us no matter what. So that's why I was kind of clarifying that.
Yeah. No, that's why for this first piece of the equation, I thought it was really important that we use the probability of failure, because then it's 100% just based on your PASER rating. That's literally just the pavement condition, right? So that'll be like 50% of the equation.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
And you'll be coming back to us for input on service level.
Yes, absolutely.
Great.
Yep.
And Mitch, then Heather, I saw both your hands go up.
Yeah, and I'd be interested in having a little more clarity as far as how does, okay, the PASER rating and the classification play some role, but when they finally get scheduled as part of the capital improvements plans, that picking on the street not just because I live here and Tim Werner does, but 7th Street is the only road in the city that is rated as poor. It's 2 on the Pacer scale, I see it right here, for its entire length. It is the longest section of road listed as poor in the entire city. It is also a major emergency route. It has a school on one end, a hospital on the other end. Yes, it goes through a neighborhood, but it does have much higher traffic loading than most typical neighborhood roads. And it is on the capital improvement plan for 2029.
Yes, so that one in particular, I know, Anne, you want to take this, or, okay. Yeah.
Thank you for asking that, Commissioner Treadwell. I had this prepared to talk about 7th Street and 14th Street. We thought they might come up tonight, so we wanted to bring it up. So we've been talking internally. We've been talking internally quite a bit about both of these corridors. 7th Street, what we would like to do is a 2-phase approach. So both 7th and 14th need to be reconstructed completely, but we don't have funding for them at the moment, and we also do not have designs for them to be reconstructed, which both of them are pretty complicated and will take probably a couple of years really to design and really do a really robust public process. So what we're hoping to do is this year for 7th Street, DPS would like to do an overlay on 7th, actually in the spring of 2026. They're doing ongoing maintenance now to hold it together. But in the spring of 2026, DPS would do an overlay, and Chris can explain that in more detail if you'd like more details on that. And then in the meantime, we would put out an RFP to hire a consultant to start the design for 7th, and same for 14th Street. But I'll talk about that in a second. But we'd put out an RFP now to hire a consultant to start the design in the public process. And then once we have like 30% design, we'd have the information we would need to go out for grant funding. You know, we'd have cost estimates and a preliminary design to go down that road, hopefully. Pardon the pun there. And then we need to obviously coordinate with TCAPS. We have been meeting with them. We have another meeting scheduled with them in a couple weeks. And then our soon-to-be formed Complete Streets Advisory Group, we would involve them as well. And as I said, conduct a public process. So that's what we're hoping to do on 7th Street. And then 14th is a little bit more complicated. We're looking at more of a 3-phase process on that. DPS could do a thin mill and fill on the drive lanes this fall. So the center lane's not in as, the center turn lane is not as in bad of shape. So DPS would do that this fall, an estimated $250,000. So we would come back to you for approval for that, for a contract to get that done for the materials and equipment rentals. And then we have MPO funding that's scheduled for 2028 for a mill and fill for the whole street. So what DPS would do now would just be a thinner mill and fill to sort of hold it together for a few more years. In 2028, we would do the more robust mill and fill, and we need to do some ADA work with that as well. And that would be paid for with the MPO funds. And then again, hire a consultant soon to start the design of the long-term project, which then we would program for no less than 5 years after we do the mill and fill with the MPO funding, because we don't want to rip up the road right after we do the mill and fill. And both of these streets currently have a PASER rating of 2, and they don't have any current urgent utility needs, so both of them could wait several years before we do the reconstructions. So that's what we're planning, and wondered if we could get some feedback if you all thought that sounded good, if you had any concerns about that process.
Well, do you have a follow-up to that?
Yeah, and maybe not for either of those 2 roads, and this might actually be more of a Heidi question than you, but if residents want their road done sooner, are there opportunities for them to ask for a special assessment district that could cover some of the funding?
I think that's an option. Yep.
I wanted to, and I know, Heather, you had your hand up, and I don't want to ignore it, but I wanted to go back really quickly to 14th Street, because what we're hearing, and I just want to make it clear so that people know, is we do like a mill and fill this year, a light one, and then in I'm sorry, that was 28. It would be a larger mill and fill, and then from there, 5 years before anything substantial would be done. And I say that, A, so people have a clear timeline right now of what could be feasible. But my question would be that since the second mill and fill would be an MPO funded, if in the meantime, let's say there's a, like we got the Safe Walk to School grants, that something like that came up, or Safe Routes, to School grant. If something like that became available, and maybe it looked like we could speed up the 14th Street process because we're so new in the MPO process, my question is there flexibility in MPO if we said, hey, instead of a mill and fill, could you give us some money towards an actual redesign because we have this opportunity? Are we that flexible with MPO, or is it pretty prescriptive?
My understanding is we'd have to basically start the process over again.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Zach's our MPO rep, so he's
Okay,
pretty
good
familiar
to know.
with
Yep,
the
that was just a
requirements
quick
there.
question. So Heather, go ahead. You had a question.
Actually, my questions was, it was about 7th,
Oh, great.
14th, so thank you
Great.
very much for
On the
being
brain.
prepared.
Yeah, thanks.
Is there, I hear complaints about people, about trucks using 7th Street as a cross street. I assume they're dropping off 8th and coming down to 7th and then going towards, I don't know.
Division?
Division. Is there any way that it can be like, this is not a throughway, this, send them up to 14th Street?
We could look at some
Where the
signage with
stops are.
design, but typically our streets
know,
are
that's
designed for truck traffic, so they have, the capacity for that. But that could be something we could talk about during the design phase.
And if my neighbor's getting a new refrigerator, that's getting delivered by a truck.
Well, it can't be
Well,
that.
I'm
It's gotta be
I'm
bigger
assuming the
than
stoplight to get across Division
Yeah.
and get over to the Munson campus. is-
Yeah.
I mean,
But that gets into, and I appreciate that that's an open conversation we can have, because as we learned through the first phase of MDOT, that I think was the first time I remember it coming before us, or I guess maybe 8th Street construction, we have the ability to communicate to like Google Maps, et cetera, of, if it's a known truck and they put it in, they'll divert them from certain routes if there's a weight limits and things like that. So just good to have these conversations periodically as technology and other information sources advance too. So, any other questions? Thank you for that. And
Thank you.
moving into our next, not unrelated issue, the 2025 Cape and Seal projects. And did you want to tee that up, Liz, or?
Well, we have our engineer, Ann Pagano, right there, if you don't mind, Ann.
I'll take it from here. Thank you,
Thank
Liz. So staff presented the 2025 street preservation projects to the commission on January 13th of this year. This project, as Frank had mentioned with the pavement asset management plan, was also very collaborative between multiple departments, including DPS, planning, parking, engineering, and others. And we are proposing to Cape Seal approximately 4 miles of city streets this summer. Cape Seal is an inexpensive treatment to extend the life of the streets by up to 10 years. I did want to talk about the Carver Street bike lane, which we discussed in the memo, but I just want to show a section of what that's going to look like and talk about that real quick. A bike lane was recommended in the mobility action plan on Carver along the stretch of Carver from Garfield to Woodmere. And originally, based on the Pazer ratings, we were only going to Cape Seal from Garfield to Rose because Rose to Woodmere didn't quite meet the criteria yet to warrant a Cape Seal. However, because of the bike lane, we would really like to extend it all the way to Woodmere. There's that TCE Millworks project going in there, and this would be a connection all the way down to the Boardman Lake Trail. And it was also, as I said, recommended in the mobility action plan. So we also discussed this at the Complete Streets Ad Hoc this month and received support. And when we did talk about it, we were asked if we could install a buffered bike lane rather than just a regular, stripe along the road. So you can see in the section here, this is what we're proposing is our 2-foot drive lane, 2 10-foot drive lanes, 1.5 foot buffer, and then a 4.5 foot bike lane. With the 2 pans, they're 18-inch pans, that would be 4.5 plus the 18-inch pan and the also 18-inch buffer. Typically, we try to design the bike lane for 5 feet, not including the pan or the buffer, but we felt that since the pan is 18 inches and the buffer is 18 inches, we felt comfortable with a 4.5-foot bike lane. So this would be on both sides of the street. And let's see, what else do I want to say about this? We're requesting to use the new Complete Streets budget to fund this improvement. We think it's a great application of the new funding. And there are also 3 traffic control orders related to parking associated with this proposal. And we received 1 bid from Pavement Maintenance Systems, and staff recommends awarding the project to them as specified in the memo.
Do we have questions? Go ahead.
Yes, we informally supported using the Complete Street funds for this project, but we've skipped the whole advisory committee. So unless that's in the motion that this has to go through the advisory committee has to look at this first, or why do we? I mean, what are we doing here? We've just created a fund for engineering to use. I mean, this may be perfectly acceptable, but we've got to do what the policy says we're going to do, which is that the advisory committee sees it. You also, as from engineering, get to see it, and then it comes to the commission, and the commission can make a decision on whether it goes forward or not.
Sure,
So.
understandable. Although we would miss an opportunity because, we're going to do this project soon.
I mean, there's got to be, maybe the motion can be amended to include the recommendation from the advisory committee.
Yeah, I think,
really can't skip
so
this
the ad hoc is still meeting to create a policy and then to make a recommendation to create a citizens advisory committee. And just in light of the fact that there seemed to be so much momentum and excitement about an opportunity like this wasn't meant to go around an advisory committee that doesn't exist yet. It was just to seize on the timing. And that's, I think, that's what staff felt was that positive momentum. But if there's a way to include a future Complete Streets Advisory Committee in the motion.
I guess I have a question that I want to ask in relation to this. This is for the 2025 Cape sealing, so it would be starting, I assume, very quickly, because if it's not done by the end of the fall, it's 2026 now.
Correct.
So because the committee does not have the policy to us. I know, but it's not to us, and it would still have to be adopted, and then the committee would have to be formed. Is this happening this summer no matter what, the 2025 Cape sealing, and this is trying to meet that, or is this a project that it's happening because of that project, and it could wait till next year? So because my question, I guess, is this happening no matter what, and if it doesn't get approved in this way with the bike lanes and everything, it's just going to come back to us for just Cape sealing and nothing else?
Right, so if approved tonight, we would like to do the Cape Seal project originally on Carter was from Garfield to Rose. So we would, if we took out the bike lane request that we have with the Complete Streets, we would only do that portion, and then we wouldn't do the Cape Seal from Rose to Woodmere. So we could still stripe the bike lane from Garfield to Rose, but then it just kind of ends and it doesn't connect over to the Boardman Lake Trail.
And the funds would not necessarily be put into reserve for next year to finish the project or anything? Well, and we couldn't really, I answered my own question. We couldn't do the portion that got done this summer no matter what.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was just.
I mean, aren't you on this committee, Mitch? Complete Streets?
Marcus. No.
Marcus.
Oh, Marcus.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've been there. We don't look that much alike despite the beards.
No, it's because Brown Bridge and
yes.
Complete Streets are all mixed up.
Yeah. What
do you think? I mean, don't you think we're skipping an important step here and setting a precedent for not needing the input from the advisory committee?
Well, there has been a pretty big involved group, and I think they have some valid information. You're correct. Yeah. I agree.
When's the next, can I ask a question? When's the next Complete Street Committee meeting. Well, here's where I'm going to say, I hesitate to lose this opportunity because it's either going to happen this summer without it or it's going to happen with it and we vote for it. If there is no committee set up, if that was a topic of this plan was a topic of discussion at that ad hoc, would that be a compromise that you all were willing to work on until this gets set up? Because knowing as this goes, we'll get the policy from you all in a few meetings, and then it'll be another couple meetings till we bring everybody back who will be put onto the advisory committee, and then we'll meet. So now we're talking about like, what, August probably, by any time anything's functional? And I hesitate to miss an opportunity like this in Traverse Heights to add a more complete street in this neighborhood. I understand the desire for input. You guys have some good people who come to that ad hoc every time from what I hear, or most times. Would that be a compromise that with the input there would be something you'd be willing to bring this back for?
I mean, either way, it all rests on us. So,
Yeah.
like, you know, the ad hoc is an advisory. And sometimes there's going to be situations like this where things come up, and I don't know that we would be able to take advantage of it without moving beforehand. You're not feeling it?
This is all, it's very much like the strategic planning, you know, this is a bottoms-up movement for a people-centric city.
I understand that, but I also think of a neighborhood that has a project for it for this year that is either going to be partial or a complete street, and I hate to miss that.
Well, I do too. I honestly do too. But can we at least talk about this on Wednesday?
Well, that was my suggestion
when
and
Tim
question.
Werner's back as well, and
Go ahead, Jackie.
Well,
I have a question about Carver Street specifically that maybe you can help me with, and it's already been considered and resolved, but the church on Carver between Fern and Rose, and if we have no street parking,
Yeah, thank you
what
for
will
asking
they
that.
do?
Those
Yep,
properties are all for
that's,
sale.
part of the
It's been
staff
sold. Hold on.
recommendation is the traffic control orders. There's 3 of them. One is to eliminate the parking on Carver, but the other 2 are to allow parking on Fern and Rose so that it kind of will make up for some of the lost parking.
Onto the blocks.
Have we been in communication with the people? I mean, the church was sold recently, and
Right,
it's under
yeah.
a new denomination, and I just, have we heard from them?
I'm not sure if anyone's talked to them. We worked with Nicole in parking, and this was what we decided was the best solution.
Satellite view, but they also have off-street parking though.
Yeah, that's the solution. So my question, I appreciate Jackie's question too, because that's another piece of data that people will want to know. So going back to my proposal and question is that something y'all are willing to add to your Wednesday ad hoc conversation
Certainly.
and consider? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
May I make a
Yes.
request, though? If we don't want to do that portion, can we make a decision on the rest of the contract so we can get that going for this summer?
of course.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess I would say, does someone want to make the motion with, I'm guessing Benjamin's assistant? Oh, go ahead.
Relative to the overall Cape Seal project, I just wondered why we had, I guess in 2022, we had done 12-plus miles of Cape Sealing, and we're down significantly from that, and I just wondered.
I might ask Chrissy actually to help with that, but I think these were the all of the roads that were eligible for Cape Sealing based on their condition.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. We've got a loud yes from the back, but we'll get maybe more detail here.
Yes, so essentially we are kind of running out of the middle of the roads that we can do pavement preservation on. We're gonna find, I think, and again, the report's not done yet, the PAMP, but I think we're gonna have reconstructions and like brand new streets. So, yeah, we did everything that was eligible that we could
Thank you.
without utilities being a problem.
And sorry, we're gonna not take a break. I want everybody to stay in their seats. But we are going to pause for a moment because I believe Benjamin is constructing something, because I have another factor question. This is a 5 affirmative votes. I'm assuming that's because the money.
Right.
Do the traffic control orders need to be voted on tonight as well for this? I'm asking Ann because I believe that's a 4 vote, and would we want to tackle those separately?
The traffic control orders are 4 votes. As far as the order of handling them, I would defer to Ann. I'm not
Would that,
familiar.
yeah, is that something you need voted on tonight too, or could that wait till the 2nd?
We would like to
Okay.
do it all in one evening, but we could wait if needed. The signs won't be installed right away, so.
Okay, so I guess I would say because I'm hearing some hesitancy until there's some information to get a 5th vote for traffic control. I think we have 4 votes now, but we could also wait until the 2nd, and if it's not as pressing, to bring it back to. Is what I'm saying is clear?
You certainly could do it that way. It's 4 votes is required for a traffic control order, 5 for the contract.
I
It's
understand,
however you
so,
wanna
but because
tackle
it's one motion, it's a 5 right now, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. If we separate out just this Cape Seal, which was what you were asking about, Jackie, we could vote on that tonight. And that's what, let's do that then. Okay, and so with that, I will, well, first of all, is someone willing to let Benjamin make the motion for the Cape Seal? Sure. Okay, Mitch is making a motion.
That is that the mayor and city clerk execute a unit prices contract with Pavement Maintenance Systems LLC in the amount not to exceed $573,685.15, which includes a 10% contingency for the 2025 Cape Sealing project and it is, what section of street exactly? Ann?
Sorry, Carver Road from Garfield to Rose is the exception.
With Carver from Garfield to Rose to be excluded from the project scope.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
I'm sorry, I did it wrong. Rose to Woodmere.
Carver from Rose to Woodmere?
Not right, yeah.
From Rose to Woodmere, okay. To be excluded from the project scope with such contract subject to approval as to its substance by the city manager and its form by the city attorney, with funds available in the Street Fund 447 and Complete Streets Fund 101. And then we're not including any reference to traffic control orders.
Okay. So that's Mitch. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Oh, and we need to remove the Complete Streets Fund part of it.
Okay.
Is it in there? Oh, yes,
Yeah.
it
Because
is,
it's not a
yes.
complete street.
Right,
Yeah.
right, yes.
Okay, so that'll come from the street fund.
Right. The
Only,
entire thing
okay.
will come from the street fund, and again, we're removing Carver from Rose to Woodmere from the project scope.
Right. Okay. And then, depending on the feedback we get, we could always bring back the other pieces after Wednesday for the 2nd. So that's,
That'd be fine.
if everybody, that's the process we're at right now. So if everybody's on page, okay? All right. Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Any public comment on this item? Yes, we have Treadwell and Shaw.
Richard Robbins from the Grand Traverse Safe Streets Alliance. I want to share with you that to complete Carver from Garfield all the way to Woodmere starts us almost to a complete east-west corridor, starting from Acme, the Tart Trail, all the way up to, we have to have a connection point. Maybe it's Hastings, maybe it's Rose, maybe it's Garfield. I'd leave that up to our city engineers and our planners. But once we have that taken care of, we've got the Tart Trail around Boardman. We need some work getting over 12th Street. We're doing between Union and Cass this year, which is terrible, but it's going to be wonderful. 12th Street all the way to Division is excellent. We then can cross, we need a little bit better help here at the intersection of Division with maybe a better a buffer area there. But then once we get across there, we're all the way to the Montessori school. I mean, look what we're doing, guys. We're doing the right stuff. This is what our community wants. They want east-west, north-south protected corridors. And this idea of Carver and the wonderful work the engineering group and planners have done around and the streets group working together in order to have a 18-inch buffer, which is a really big deal versus just a line, creates a safe street. I was down in Ann Arbor, and I biked all day in Ann Arbor, and I'd encourage us all to take a field trip together someday. We've got to see what best practices are. This is best practices. And so I really encourage the discussion, and of course, we've been very involved in Complete Streets Ad Hoc Committee, and we're very excited about this opportunity. So thank you for the leadership. Thank you for the engineering. We have a great staff that's doing the right work, and we're looking forward to seeing this as our first east-west corridor. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this?
Justin Reed, Charter City resident. My question is, do we have a budget like Ann Arbor does? Because Ann Arbor is a little bit bigger than we are. You know, there's inventive ways and opportunities. I'm sure we can get there. But one thing I don't hear about is, you know, no consulting with the chart trails, because they've got the chart in town, which is the signage that's, you know, on shared streets for chart. So that is the only thing that I gotta say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this item? Bringing it back to the commissioners, I just want to say technically this is a mayor right, but I'll ask for 2 other commissioners. I would like this item back on the agenda on the 2nd no matter what, even if the Complete Streets reject it, because I would like the public to have an update on this no matter what. So I hope it's with action, because I'd love to see a complete street in Traverse Heights. But regardless, I'd like it on the agenda so that people know what's going on. Any other final comments? Since I made one, I don't want to stop anybody else. All right, and I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we're going to go into authorizing the contract for the 2025 season of the reconstruction projects. And Ann, keep up.
This is the last one from me tonight. Okay, staff presented the 2025 street reconstruction to the commission on January 13th. As well this year, the project was a collaborative effort again between multiple departments, including DPS, planning, parking, parks, and engineering. We received comments at that meeting and addressed those comments in an attachment to the memo. The response letter is attached in the packet. And this one also includes 3 traffic control orders related to parking, as described in the memo. We received 2 bids for the project, with Elmer's Crane and Dozer being the low bid, and staff recommends awarding the project to Elmer's as specified in the memo.
Great. Any questions from commissioners on this? Go ahead.
I was going to make a comment. Between the strategic plan and everything happening today and that budget, which I spent hours on again, and I had never seen, because I read about in the Record Eagle. Why hadn't I ever seen any of these street reconstruction projects? It's because we were working on the bridges. I didn't know that. So I was fascinated looking at those plans, but I didn't get a chance to really look at anything because this was an overwhelming packet. Oh my gosh. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say was that was a lot of work. And
kudos to our engineering
congratulations.
team and everyone else I mentioned earlier. It was a collaborative effort, and yeah, it was a lot of work.
Right. Does somebody want to make a motion then?
oh my gosh, that's
Actually,
a lot of reading.
you know,
I can
I'll
read
be,
it if it's
okay.
okay.
No, Benjamin, if you'd like to, or I can, whichever you prefer.
I'm happy to.
I read 3 proclamations, so I'll let you to know.
That the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute a contract with Elmer's Crane and Dozer in the amount not to exceed $3,491,000 plus a 10% contingency of $349,100 for a total of $3,840,100 for the construction of the 2025 street reconstruction projects. Such contract subject to approval as to its substance by the city manager and its form by the city attorney, with funds available in the capital street fund, water fund, sewer fund, and traffic calming fund. And further, that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute a contract with Land Tech Surveying and the amount not to exceed $38,180 with a 10% contingency of $3,818 for a total contract amount of $41,998 for construction staking. Such contract subject to approval as to its substance by the city manager and its form by the city attorney, with funds available in the Capital Street Fund. And further, that an approved budget amendment for use of fund balance to cover authorized expenditure of funds in the capital streets, water, sewer, and traffic calming funds be approved. And further, that Traffic Control Order 738, which provides for no parking on the east side of 9th Street between West Union and Lake Avenue on the north side on even days and the south side on odd days, be permanently adopted. And further, that Traffic Control Order 740, which provides for no parking on the north side of East 11th Street from South Union Street to South Cass Street, with certain exceptions, be permanently adopted. And further, that Traffic Control Order 741, which provides for no parking on a section of East 12th Street during certain times and provides for 2-hour parking during certain times for school days, be permanently adopted.
Who made that motion?
I thought you did.
Am I allowed to make a motion as the chair?
It's
It's not opted.
recommended against that.
Yes, yeah,
Yes.
chairs don't usually make the motion.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Shaw. And who wants to second? Okay, I'll give that to you, Commissioner Anderson. Thank you. Okay, any comments on this one now? All right, any public comment on this? Thank you for the Herculean effort of reading that to our city clerk. I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. And now moving on to another one of our busy bee ad hocs, which is why it's understandable that Commissioner Shaw forgot who's on which ones. We've got the Brown Bridge here. And so, I didn't skip, right?
No, you
Okay.
didn't.
You leaned over. Sometimes when you do that,
I'm
means I
just
skip
happy
something
to
accidentally.
give an overview, is all.
Yeah, I was going to say, so now I'll hand this over then. And you said you were going to lead with that, Benjamin?
Yes,
Please.
this ad hoc committee, which consists of Commissioners Shaw, Treadwell, and Werner, with Commissioner Werner serving as chair, has had several meetings. And just by way of background, the city owns parkland to the southeast of the city limits, known as the Brown Bridge Quiet Area. And we have a provision in our charter that provides for all of the revenues that are generated from that property, which are due to oil, be deposited in a Brown Bridge Trust Fund, and that fund can only be accessed by approval of the voters. And with that foundation, I just wanted to share, in November of 2014, city voters approved the portion of that trust fund that exceeds $12 million to be used for parks capital improvements. And that was for a 5-year period, and also parkland acquisition. Then in November 2019, a similar ballot proposal was approved, and that expired in November of 2024. So last year, the City Commission appointed the ad hoc committee that I mentioned with the commissioners that are serving on that to present a recommendation on ballot proposals to be considered for placement on the November 2025 election. And there's 2 proposals that are being recommended, 2 charter amendment proposals. The first is to ask voters for permission to spend up to $3 million from Brown Bridge Trust Fund on city parkland capital improvements, projects that increase access to city parks and/or parkland acquisition. That $3 million allowance, if you will, or authorization to use up to $3 million would be for a 5-year period going from November 2025 through November 2030. The committee is recommending that the City Commission adopt the ballot language now because it's a charter amendment which requires the governor and attorney general to review it. If they required any changes, they traditionally haven't with Brown Bridge Trust proposals, but if they did, that all has to be approved by the City Commission by roughly the middle of August in order for this to be eligible for the November ballot. The intention is, if the City Commission approves this ballot language, is for the ad hoc committee to spend the next several months preparing a proposed list of projects that would be funded. And that would be based on robust public input, invitation. Obviously, these ad hoc committee meetings are open to the public. The Parks and Recreation Commission would be involved as well. And the idea there is for the ad hoc committee to present that prioritized list for city commission adoption no later than mid-September of this year, so that when absentee ballots are distributed, the voters have an informed understanding of where that money would be spent. So that's proposal one. Are there any questions on that before I move on to the second proposal from the ad hoc committee?
This is a factual question. I'm not
Sure.
sure I should have asked earlier. In terms of the continuity of our oil and gas royalties income stream,
Yes.
when does the oil run out? Do we have any
It's
assessment of that?
declining significantly.
Yes,
The amount of revenue has gone down substantially from the oil that is essentially harvested. And I think we're roughly at about $150,000 a year in royalties right now. There was a time where it was closer to $1 million plus, but that's been steadily declining for several years. And yes, and then I do want to add that the interest from the trust fund goes to the general fund.
Yes. And really quick, I believe that we had some updates. What was it, in 2023? Did we look at that one? Was that the acquisition of the property year?
Yes.
There was some conversation and facts presented back then. I don't think it was a formal part of of any vote of where the kind of trickle and everything is at too. So recent conversation, but before you, so fair question.
Right. All right. And then I'll move on to the second proposal, which would be to ask voters to allow an amount no more than $5 million cumulatively at any one time to be used for interfund loans. And that would only be possible if the city treasurer determined that it was financially advantageous. In other words, if the city would get a better deal by giving itself an interfund loan than borrowing the money, as well as the interest that we're making off the trust fund principal. And so that'd be a recommendation analysis conducted by the city treasurer that would go to the city commission, and those interfund loans would be for any valid municipal purpose. And that is in perpetuity. There is no shelf life. The other proposal has a 5-year window for it, which has been traditionally the case for parkland acquisition initiatives.
And as an example, the city could have saved some money by using an intergovernmental loan coming from the Brown Bridge on the Boardman Loop rather than the, whatever they did.
We bonded,
yeah. Could have saved a percentage point on.
Good point. Yeah. Do we have any questions on the second one? Good example given though there, Heather. That's a painful reminder. All right, then do we have any further questions or would somebody like to make a motion? I'll be nice.
And I'm happy to, you want to read
I'll
it?
say
All right,
that the
great.
resolution, and one of you has to claim this since I'm the chair, but I'll read it. The resolution to amend section 129 of the city charter of Traverse City, which would place a ballot proposal on the November 4th, 2025 election regarding use of $3 million of Brown Bridge Trust Fund principal for city park capital improvements and/or improvements that increase accessibility to city parkland be adopted, and that the resolution to amend section 129 of the city charter of Traverse City, which would replace a ballot proposal on the June 4th, 2025 election, sorry, I've confused myself there, election regarding the use of $5 million of Brown Bridge Trust Fund principal for interfund loans upon the recommendation of the city treasurer be adopted.
November
not
4th.
June.
Yeah, I was going to say, that confused me. Okay, so.
So moved with the correction.
Yes, thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Wilson and Commissioner Anderson. Any further discussion or questions? Go ahead, Mitch.
Yes, I'll say that this is ultimately putting it up to the voters to decide. Although I have served on the ad hoc and seen the process through, I do have some apprehension about the $3 million because of, as we just reiterated, the revenues coming into the fund have declined and will, aside from interest, peter out over time. $3 million is a significant chunk of change. We would be spending that eventually, regardless of how much we take out this time. But that is an amount that can truly achieve transformative change and projects for our parks. Though I have not seen a specific project such as acquisition of a large chunk of land or building a new park or a new recreational facility that would by itself justify this rather large amount.
That said, you all are going to tackle that potential
Yes.
list, and hear from the public in the coming months, weeks and months. So,
And this is up to $3 million.
Right.
It doesn't require that.
yes, that's a very good point, too. Any public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And thank you so much for the work already done on this committee. I know you all have tackled it from a very different perspective than previous ones and brought us back a really different way of thinking about it that is very robust and gives us a lot of options. And I look forward to hearing what happens after the public input.
Yes, and I
It's fair.
I look forward to coming back with a list of transformative park
Mm-hmm.
projects, yes.
Very good, very good. All right, well, we're moving on to Human Rights Commission, one appointment tonight only, and it's a establishment of an interview committee for a seat currently held by Marilyn Jaquish, myself, Commissioner Treadwell, and Commissioner Anderson. Does someone want to make that motion? Go ahead.
I move that the City Commission ad hoc interview committee be established to make a recommendation regarding one appointment to the Human Rights Commission with term expiring June 30, 2028, seat held by Marilyn Jaquish, and that Mayor Shamrow, Commissioner Treadwell, and Commissioner Anderson be appointed to such committee with Mayor Shamrow as chair.
Support.
All right, thank you for that. Any comments on this? Any public comment on this? I'll bring it back. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes, and we had a very late meeting last night, or not last night, last time we had a business meeting. So I will now turn to you all and see if you have any reports for this business meeting. I think we kind of skimmed it last time.
Marker, just
Hold
talk
on.
about the Anishinaabe marker.
You want me to share about the
Yeah.
Anishinaabe
Yes,
History
please, I do.
Marker? Had
Yes.
not a ribbon cutting, but a ceremony to share the marker behind currently the Bijou at the, or formerly the Bijou at Clinch Park. And I didn't bring any statements prepared, and I'm really brain drained.
Oh,
if you
it was
want- I know.
such a wonderful ceremony.
It was a great.
really
It was great. James Vanderchalk was there. He's a Ojibwe speaker, and yeah, it was a good ceremony. I mean, I didn't come with anything prepared for it because I didn't know that it'd be relevant to this commission. So
Well, the public, that's available. I mean, that's there
it
now
is
in the
it
public
is
eye.
available if people aren't familiar with the project. There are several markers through the old Indian Trail going from roughly around Cadillac up through the Leelanau Peninsula, and about 40 years ago, a really well-respected tribal elder, Frank Edwigijic, did some thorough research and helped mark these trails, but they're more like these little pointed white stones. You'll see them around. There's one just right out the block here on the corner of Cass and Lake, and an interested party pulled some funds together and put a great project to get some better, bigger, more prominent markers done as an art installment, and there will be 9 of them throughout northern Michigan with other interactive multimedia functions to them.
Fantastic. That's
And-
great.
And there's a film, there must be a website, and a film has been made showing
That-
3 women elders who had a lot to do with.
Yeah, there's been a couple with the Water Song and Anishinaabe, Grand Traverse Band tribal member, filmmaker Shane McSabe did one, and it'll be available soon enough at AnishinaabEtrails.org.
Fantastic.
And it's just a beautiful example of art.
Talking to your mic so people are making sure
A
they hear it.
beautiful example of art and history and culture all coming together with the help of a community. It's really remarkable. Everyone should go see it. The Singing Stone and the grandfather teachings, and it's just wonderful.
Fantastic. Thank you for drawing that out, and thank you, Mark, for sharing.
Yeah, I was not prepared, but
That's okay. You
Thank
did
you.
great. All right, Mitch, and then
We mentioned it at the beginning, but I'd like to wish the city of Traverse City a 130th birthday once again. Hey.
yes. Go ahead, Jackie.
An item is coming up on the Planning Commission agenda for tomorrow night. that is kind of an interesting one because it involves a potential public-private partnership where a piece of city land on the north side of East Front Street might be improved by a private developer who owns a piece of property on the south side of East Front Street, with benefits to the developer of an improved view shed and benefits to the public of possible amenities to be installed on that piece of city land. So if anyone is interested in that, meeting is tomorrow at 6 p.m. in this room. So please join us.
Interesting discussion. Thank you for updating that. All right. Well, with that, then I'm going to move now to final public comment. This can be about anything we talked about tonight or anything under the sun. Does anybody want to speak at public comment now?
Hi, Richard Robbins again, representing the Grand Traverse Safe Streets Alliance. Thank you so much for your leadership. The last couple of weeks, we've been interacting with your staff. We have a tremendous staff. We're all starting to gain the momentum around developing non-motorized infrastructure in this city, and it's very, very exciting. I wanted to just bring your attention to the fact that as a part of Smart Commute Week, the Grand Traverse Safe Streets Alliance is going to have its first actual public event. It's going to be on Tuesday the 3rd from 4:30 to 6, and we want to invite the City Commission and staff to join with yourselves and your families. The first start is from 4:30 to 6. We're calling it the Bike Rally Corral in front of the library on Woodmere. And in the front lawn, we have a TCLP there with their tent to talk about the rebates for e-technology, e-bikes. And we will have all the bike shops bringing the latest technology and latest commuting vehicles, cargo bikes, some really cool stuff you might not have ever seen before to kind of display it. And we're encouraging everyone else too, if you commute, bring your bike in or your whatever you use in order to show everyone else what you use, and it's really a sharing of what's to come. Then from 6 to 8 in the library, we have a Grand Traverse Safe Streets Alliance event called What is the Grand Traverse Non-Motorized Transportation Future? So we're going to show four short videos. We have a panel discussion with the disabled, runners, cyclists, and actually an engineer, professional engineer that does this for a living, to talk about these 4 videos and also have open participation with the public. So I'd like to encourage all of you to join us as well. So thank you so much.
And sorry, Richard, this won't count against your time.
Yeah.
What was the first part, the evening panel 6 to 8? What time was the part in front of the library earlier?
So it starts from 4:30 to 6 called the Bike Corral or Rally. And then we move right into the library for 6 to 8. So maybe bring us a little snack. But,
Perfect.
Yeah, so they're together.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other general public comment right now?
So Justin Reed, this Friday from 11 to 2, well, sorry, not 11 to 2, 11 to 1, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., the clubhouse is having a open house for the public to attend, because, you know, just talking about our program and what it does and everything and how it helps people with mental illness. So hopefully some of the city commissioners or whoever has some time to visit it. So, and that's at 105 Hall Street. So that's in the front portion of Myrtle Lakes Community Mental Health Building. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Please approach the podium.
Thank you, Commission. My name is Alex Tank, and I am a resident of the Triangle neighborhood, newly formed association. And I want to thank City Manager Vogel for attending one of our past meetings, and most recently Commissioner Treadwell was at the meeting. An issue came up towards the end of our neighborhood meeting that related to Oakwood Cemetery and proposed or intended tree trimming and removal in the Oakwood Cemetery. I gathered from another neighbor that this has come up in the past, and then it relates to the airport authority's use of something that's called an aviation easement or air rights that then precipitate the trimming and tree removal. There was a FOIA requested document, I believe, that was shown at the meeting that listed what I will call a disturbing number of removal, tagged trees for removal or identified for removal, not just trimming or topping off. And to me, it seemed like a very heavy-handed, inconsiderate, potentially destructive and devaluing action that would happen very near my home and near many of my neighbors' homes. So I wanted to make sure that I came before the commission to raise the issue and hopefully elicit some discussion on the issue before actions that are taken that can't be reversed happen. And these are the type of actions that are different than paving the street incorrectly. You have a chance to fix it. When you cut down 100-year-old plus trees, you have zero chance to fix that. And it takes 7 generations and more to return nature how it was. So have you considered this city property in an appropriate fashion? And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other public comment at this time? I do know that that's the FAA and the city have been talking. It's nothing's that will be brought before us. There's always questions of jurisdiction. So we will definitely be having that conversation very publicly for you. And this isn't, I'm just letting you know, we can talk after. No, it's not a discussion right now. Yeah, sorry. It's not a discussion. I just wanted to let you know so you didn't walk out and think that people just totally ignored you. So there will be a discussion of that, and that always comes before the city. What we can do and can't do is always up for discussion because of jurisdictions, but we will always have that conversation, and there's a lot more to come on that. Any final comments from commissioners? Just a reminder, unless I have been misinformed, we do not have a meeting next week. So
right.
our next meeting will be June 2nd. If anybody wants a good laugh, I'll be throwing out the opening pitch at the Pit Spitters on the 30th. Hope everybody has a great couple weeks here.
Okay, so I don't need to get back here.
What's that?
Oh, no, I do, because the ethics ad hoc got shifted.
Oh, yeah, I actually